Live at the conclusion of the final game of the Buckeyes 2023 campaign, which is a 14-3 loss in the Cotton Bowl to Missouri. And before we play the intro video and hop into this show, I have one thing to say. What did we just watch?
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, Buckeye fans are confident that Ohio State had a chance to win this game. We talked about it. They had the necessary weapons to win this game, but unfortunately, the Missouri Tigers were victorious in this year's Cotton Bowl. Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to the final postcast of the season. It's not the kind of show we wanted to have together. Ohio State loses 14-3 to Missouri in the Cotton Bowl, and the Buckeye season is over. I am your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. It's been a while since we've had a postcast, about a month since the previous one, so we're going to go through and instantly react together to what we just watched. I asked a question earlier. I'll say it again. What did we just watch? This is not how you want to end your season. And it's not just a loss that is making me ask that question. It's what we watched from Ohio State in this game. And trust me, some of y'all are wondering, are we going to talk about Ryan Day? Absolutely. That's coming up later in this show. But we knew going into this game, Ohio State would have a new QB1, Devin Brown. Ohio State might make some changes on the offensive line, but that was not set in stone. They definitely did that. I don't think that was a wise decision. You also knew Eichenberg probably would not play. 2 hours before kickoff, we found out they weren't going to play. So no Eichenberg, no Harrison Jr. Lathan Ransom didn't play. He's been out for a long time, was not healthy enough to play this game. Cade Stover is banged up. You got a new QB1. And what we watched in this game was a Buckeyes team that, to me, looked like they were not prepared to play football. They were not motivated and enthusiastic in playing football early in this game. It even took Cade Stover during a sideline huddle, during a timeout, to kind of go off on his teammates right there on the sideline in the game. It seemed like it needed to happen. I don't know what it did. I don't know if it did any good for him to do that. I mean, it did do good. It needed to happen. But this is not the way you want to end your season. And I understand Missouri's a good football team, and I want to say something I said on yesterday's show. I didn't trust Devin Brown, and I didn't think Devin Brown was going to be the right guy, the quarterback for Ohio State, to win this game. First start as a quarterback ever at Ohio State, and it's in this game against this good Missouri team. So that was part of my reasoning for why I picked Missouri to win the game. But I didn't think Ryan Day would come out and call some of the play calls that he did. I didn't think that Ryan Day, and I probably should have, I keep thinking that Ryan Day is going to be making changes that, they're necessary changes that you need to make and necessary decisions that you need to make as well. No. Henderson, he rode with Henderson the whole game, 19 carries, 72 rushing yards, 3.8 yards a pop. A lot of the play calls left you scratching your head and wondering what in the world is going on. Devin Brown does go out in this game. So that goes into some of the things that happened. Like, I understand there were some offensive issues. You're going in the game with your backup quarterback who only had a month to prepare for this game as a starter. So that's one thing you got to worry about and think about. You also have to play your third-string quarterback because Lincoln Kinholz got thrust into the spotlight because Devin Brown left the game when his foot got caught in the turf, twisted his ankle, tried to come back in. He could barely move and walk, hobbled off the field, went into the locker room. So now you're dealing with your third-string quarterback, and you realize the playbook's going to be shrunk, going to try to condense things and do things that make your quarterback comfortable. The offensive line had issues. Credit Missouri for finding ways to get pressure on Ohio State's quarterbacks. Brown or Kinholz did not matter. Credit them for that. But this is not what you expect from Ohio State. And I understand it's not so much the loss. It's how they looked. This is unacceptable. This is not how you can't come out and say we're motivated to play and play like that. You can't come out here and say we're motivated to play in a game and do that in Jerry's World, AT&T Stadium. You can't do that. And it's not that Ohio State doesn't have better talent than Missouri, because I do believe the talent is probably more even than I think we thought it was going into the game. But I definitely think talent-wise, Ohio State had the talent. Even without Eichenberg, even without Marvin Harrison Jr., they had the talent. The loss is one thing. That hurts. That stings. That's ugly. Back-to-back years with when you lose to the team up north and you lose the bowl game. That's not good. That's not a good look for anybody. But at least you would like, hey, if this was like the Georgia game where Ohio State and Missouri were just throwing bows back and forth, the next thing you know, what do you find? Oh, you lose a last-second missed field goal. Great. You lose. What is it? You're not embarrassed by how they played. You're saying, hey, you gave it your all and it was not enough. That's what you're saying at that point. What we're saying right now is Ohio State looked like a team that didn't want to be there at times in this game. And if it wasn't for the defense, this game could have easily been 30 plus to 33, 35 to 3. Why? Because Missouri found a formula in the second half when Ohio State couldn't move the ball offensively. And offensively still, even with Kean Holtz, a lot of the play calling and some things just didn't. Why are we in second and long, third and long, running the ball? I understand you got a new quarterback in there, but you got to do something to try to give your guys a chance to put the ball in the end zone. I didn't want to come on here this late on a Friday night and be a little animated. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to come on here, maybe be animated and say, oh, great. Ohio State won. Jay's happy. Jay's excited. Things are going well in the household. Things are looking good for the future of Ohio State. But where we are right now at the end of the season, even if guys come back, I don't know. There's a lot of changes that need to be made with this team if they want to win a natty next year. But that's where we are. What we do now is look forward to the future and say, hey, does Ohio State have what it needs right now to win a natty? The answer is absolutely not. And some of those holes showed up again on Friday night. I almost said Saturday, thinking about the normal college football Saturday. Showed up once again on a Friday evening. What holes are there? How do we fix them for Ohio State to be able to win a natty next year? And there is more questions to this team than simply the quarterback. Play calling, situational play calling, once again is an issue. My wife made a comment during the game about who should or should not call plays at Ohio State. And I agree with her. She's a really good football mind, and I really appreciate some of the comments that we have during games. Trust me, something has to change. Because if not, the head coach at Ohio State might be gone next year. I don't think he's going to get fired for losing this game today. I do not. But if things don't change, things with that seat might be really hot heading into the first game of the 2024 campaign. Now, I mentioned the defense and how I wanted to touch on the defense and how they played and did some good things. But, guys, the defense couldn't do everything for Ohio State to win this game tonight. We're going to dive more into that next as the Locked on Buckeyes postcast rolls on after Ohio State suffers a 14-3 loss to Missouri in the Cotton Bowl. This postcast is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, You're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On Plus, our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel, found only at the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We knew going into this game, Ohio State's defense was good. It was really, really good. And even with the absence of Tommy Eichenberg, you believed, and I believed, and many of us did, that Cody Simon is not as good as Ike, but he is a great backup when Ike cannot play. And so we knew you had a different linebacker. You knew your defensive front was going to be the same. You knew the back end, your secondary, was going to be the same with the absence of Lathan Ransom, who missed the latter part of the regular season and was not healthy enough to play in this game. You knew the defense was going to be going up against a really good offense, possibly the best offense Ohio State has played all season. Can't say second best because I don't believe that Brady Cook is if he's a worse quarterback than J.J. McCarthy, he ain't that worse off, because I really think Brady Cook, better quarterback, Cody Schrader, better running back, and Luther Burton, better receiver than any receiver that Michigan has on their football team. So the offense is better. But think about this, though. The one thing that Ohio State knew they had to do, stop the run. Not saying it was going to be that easy and simple, because the inside zone run scheme that Missouri had, yeah, it was slowed down in the first half. And I got some numbers here, first half numbers compared to the total game numbers. In the first half, Cody Schrader, 10 carries, 41 rushing yards, 4.1 yards a pop. Not bad. For a guy who was leading the country in rushing yards per game, holding him to 4.1 yards a pop and 41 rushing yards in the first half, that's not bad at all. For Brady Cook, the quarterback at Missouri, 11 rushes in the first half, 43 rushing yards, 3.9 yards a pop. You would say, hey, I understand that is 84 rushing yards combined, which isn't great at all. But if you can corral and figure out a formula at halftime to slow both of them down, you're doing something right. Before the entire game, and also this goes into time of possession, Buckeyes had the ball for 26 minutes and 7 seconds. Here's where things kind of shifted. We're going to get to some stats here in a second. Missouri had the ball for almost 34 minutes. Almost 34 minutes in a 60-minute game. 33 minutes and 53 seconds for the game. Rushing numbers. Cody Schrader, 29 carries, 128, 4.4 yards a pop, and 1 touchdown. Cook, 19 carries. They did slow him down in the second half. Only 66 rushing yards, 3.5 yards a pop. So it's total, if you thought, hey, he would double his yardage from first half to second half, that didn't happen. Only 66 rushing yards, 3.5 yards a pop. For that 1-2 punch in the backfield, running the ball, you would say they did a pretty good job. Well, on one. The other one, Cody Schrader, just that boy good, man. That boy good. But here's where I say Ohio State's defense can't do it all. What did the offense do, even when Devin Brown was out there, that made you believe, hey, they could be successful and move the ball on Missouri? This isn't just about Lincoln Kienholz being out there and going off his back foot and the ball not really having a lot of velocity at times, throwing to the outside, which, hey, he's a true freshman who was not expecting to play in this moment. But what did you find? There were some good things he did, and also some teachable and coachable moments that will help him in the future. But Ohio State's defense, man, if it wasn't for the defense, I said it earlier, this game would have easily been 35-3. Easily. Because the offense, even with Brown, you didn't really think at any time when Devin Brown was out there, hey, Ohio State's offense looks good. They look fluid. They look prepared. They look motivated. They look excited. Look like they're ready to move people. You never saw that or said that about that offense when Devin Brown was out there. So even if we throw out the portion where Kean Holmes was on the field, which was a good portion of the game, even in that smaller sample size with Brown, nobody said this offense looked like it was ready to play football today. And therein lies the problem. I'm going to go into a question about Ryan Day a little bit earlier than expected, but we had questions about Ryan Day, and I want to start throwing these out here now. This is more of a scenario that I want everybody to think about. There has been a lot of conversation here on this show. I don't really care about what other people say. Here on this show, Monday through Friday, we hear it on YouTube and on all the audio podcast platforms for free. We talk about Ryan Day, Kyle McCord, and Kyle McCord's slow starts in games. Talk about it all the time. Don't sugarcoat it. And I even tried to defend McCord and say this and that. Was that always on Kyle McCord? That is a question for you guys you can answer right now. Hop in the live chat right there and go back and forth. Was that always on Kyle McCord? Because to me, McCord got a lot of the pushback. McCord got a lot of the attention. McCord was the guy who said, hey, we can't buy into you being our QB1 right now for next season. Hey, we're going to go and look at a guy in the portal, a guy or two in the portal, which even during the broadcast, when they said Ryan Day said that's not really their thing. And I'm like, wait, so you looked at guys or you don't want to go and get a guy now? Or you didn't look at anybody at all? I don't know, but you tell McCord one thing and you say, okay, great, that's cool. Were all of these slow starts? I know who was on the field, but was some of that on Ryan Day? Because this is not just one game. And it ain't just Devin Brown. This is a problem in 2023 where Ohio State on offense has slow starts. Ohio State at times doesn't look prepared. Ohio State at times has bad opening game scripts where the opening plays of a game are scripted, probably 10 to 12, maybe 12 to 15, not sure the exact number, but a coach is trying to figure out, hey, here's a script. This is what we're going to do. Our guys know it. Let's get into a groove. A lot of things are pointed at Kyle McCord. But I think some questions need to be thrown at Ryan Day and ask, is this on him as well? You can't put it all on the player. Yeah, I know the player's going to get all of the attention. 12 games, some starts are better than others. I get that. But at some point, you got to look at the head coach and say, sir, are you doing everything in your power to make sure your quarterback, your offense is prepared to play the football? This game is not just a snapshot of one game in a bowl at the end of a season. This is what Ohio State has been at times offensively this year. Not that good for an entire game. They have had great moments. They have done some really good things. This ain't about Marvin Harrison Jr. not being on the field. This ain't about you making some changes on the offensive line, which even that I question going into this game. And even in the moment, I question why you made that decision. I know there were things going on internally. I don't know all of them. But at some point, the finger, I ain't got to, don't point fingers. That can be kind of rude. Let's be a little nicer right now. I know I've been harsh on the coach. At some point, you got to look at Ryan Day and say, sir, something ain't right. We've been putting the blame on other people. We got to start looking at you, sir, and figuring out what is going on that this is happening over and over and over. I'm glad I got that off my chest because we got a lot more to talk about with Ryan Day as this postcast rolls on after the Buckeyes suffer a loss to Missouri in the final game of the season in the Cotton Bowl. Final score, 14-3. This episode is brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the largest PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. PrizePicks is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my money this football season. And now I can play during basketball season too. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. Testing my skills on PrizePicks this season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. PrizePicks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege for your first deposit match up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege for your first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. So I got one question about Ryan Day off of my chest. We get a lot more time together to hear a few more. One thing I didn't do earlier, which I should have, was highlight some players on defense. And the hope is some that we're going to highlight, really just one specific one, even though there were a lot of guys that played very, 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 very well on defense. How Ohio State moves on and plays with them in next season. Leading tackler for the Buckeyes, 12 tackles in Cody Simon, 12 tackles, 6 of those were solo. Still Chambers, second on the team in tackles today with 8 tackles. Igman 7 tackles. And I got to say, the secondary was phenomenal. Phenomenal. Josh Proctor, Sonny Styles did good. Occasionally had some high hits. I thought 1 or 2 of them was going to get hit with a possible targeting. And I went back and said, no, but in these games, sometimes that flag might come out a little quicker than normal for some of these big hits. But one guy I want to kind of highlight, and there's a lot on defense, and I'm trying to look at him and find his name on my page. Jack Sawyer, 4 tackles, all of them solo, 3 sacks. And another question about Ryan Day is not so much a bad thing, it's a sign of growth. Will Ryan Day be comfortable in 2024 winning with defense? Because I do think there's a realistic thought early in the year, and I don't have next year's schedule at the top of my head, so forgive me there. But what I do have is this thought here. We learned about Ryan Day and Ohio State that they're comfortable winning with defense this year. Offensive struggles, like I said, they're not all on the quarterback. Some of that has to go back on the head coach and say, is he properly preparing the team to play? But you have to be comfortable winning with defense next year. You absolutely have to. You did it this year. Ohio State's defense, one of the best in the country. And if you get a lot of your secondary returning, Proctor's gone. I believe Proctor's gone. Ransom's still up in the air, not sure. Burke, I don't know what decision he has made. It will become public on January 10th. But if you lose only Proctor, secondary is basically intact. Can you get better with Cody Simon and Still Chambers? Or do you need to try to find a role for Gate Powers or CJ Hicks? That is to be determined. Don't know. What's going on with your defensive line? I don't know. But will he be comfortable winning with defense? I can't answer that question. But ultimately, that's when Ryan Day has to answer himself. But that's not really a bad thing. I'm not trying to throw shade or slander at all. Because maybe in this game he thought we could win with defense with the things going on offensively. Maybe he thought that. It wasn't the right time for that thought. I mean, it was a great belief. Don't get me wrong. But Missouri's a really good football team. Here's my last one, and I saved it for last on purpose. Some of y'all will enjoy this little rant we got over the next 3 to 4 minutes of this show. Put your seatbelts on. It's going to be a little fun. Not laughing because I find anything like comical. Actually, I do about how this stuff is right now. Man. Why is this team unprepared to play the bowl game? Last question. Why? On the show this week, multiple times, I came on here and said, we know how Ryan Day coaches when he has a month off. I'm over here pumping him up. And even though I'm not fully on the Ryan Day train for the next 5 years, I'm trying to say, hey, you can trust Ryan Day. You know what he's going to do. You give him a month off. He doesn't prepare like Nick Saban does. He's not at that level. But what do you find? You give him a month off. He's going to have a game plan that, if executed properly, the Buckeyes will give themselves a chance to win. We know this. 2019 Clemson, the best team Ryan Day has coached, and that team, man, that's a team that in almost any other year wins the Natty. 2019 against Clemson, that I forget what bowl game it was, Sugar Bowl maybe, not sure. What do we find? Ryan Day's game plan was great. The execution of it was a little bit off. Team was prepared to play. Team was motivated to play. Didn't have to say it. We saw that on the field. Clemson the very next year, great. Month off, phenomenal. Very next year against Utah, they figured out something pre-game and even in the game. What do you find? Hey, had to move and shuffle some guys around. Things are great. Beat Utah. 2022, even in a loss against Georgia, Day's game plan was phenomenal. It's just you ran into a team that's one of the best teams we've seen over the past few years. Not saying the best, but one of the best. What do we find this year? Spend all this time gassing him up, hyping him up, saying, hey, I know he may not be the best coach in the sport, but hey, you give him a month off, he's going to figure out something that works. And man, we even heard players say they're motivated to play. At least Jack Sawyer showed up and played like he was motivated to play. Goodness gracious. Did you see some of that offensive line play? And it's not, I'm not talking about the moments where Missouri brought and had some exotic blitzes and trying to shift some things around to where things were not going the way that the Buckeyes needed it to go. I'm not saying that. What am I saying? There were times where there was miscommunication on the offensive line with guys that have played next to each other all season long. There were times that you had guys on the offensive line that were just simply quickly being turned. Quickly. Not even 1-2 step and being able to keep their shoulders parallel to the line of scrimmage. No, it's boom, turnstile, you can get in the backfield. Boom, turnstile, you can get in the backfield. Preparation with this team today, not acceptable. And maybe I'm prematurely looking into next season, but the off-season started, unfortunately, for Ryan Day and roster management, started as soon as that loss to Michigan happened, because you're trying to, at that moment, retain guys and tell guys where they currently stand, what their current spot is for next year, to figure out, hey, we got this info. We want to give it to you so you can decide what you think the best move for you is for your career. Yes, we may love to have you at Ohio State, but we understand this might not be the space for you next season. I get it, man. The preparation for this game, it was not there. And I have purposefully dodged the thought about Ryan Day being born on third base. I have purposefully dodged all of the Ryan Day, Larry Coker comparisons. Dodged them for an entire year and plus. Some of those thoughts will find their way into this show, not 2 months from now or 3 months from now, possibly over the next few days as we jump into 2024. This game, losing to Missouri, is not embarrassing. The lack of preparation and lack of motivation at times is embarrassing. Didn't want to end the show this way. Didn't want to end 2023 this way here on the show, but that's what happened. Ohio State suffered a loss in the Cotton Bowl to Missouri, 14-3. Don't need to go through the Buckeyes' offensive or defensive numbers anymore. I will. How bad was this loss and how weird was the offense? Ohio State, total 106 passing yards. Total 97 rushing yards. Highest receiver in receiving yards, Emeka Egbuka. 6 receptions, 63 receiving yards. It's not going to cut it. I understand it's a third-string quarterback. I understand. But even before that, what happened in the first half? With Keaton Holtz had 0 completions. Devin Brown, 4 for 6, 20 receiving yards. Emeka Egbuka had 3 catches for 16 yards, and Carnell Tate had 1 for 4. That's what happened. This is why I was so annoyed about how Ohio State played in this game against the Missouri Tigers. Guys are out of here on a Friday evening. Well, now in the Saturday morning here at 12:07 a.m. Eastern time, at the time of this current recording, at the close of this show. Subscribe to Locked On Buckeyes on YouTube, on Apple, on Spotify, or wherever you get your fine podcast. If you want some more analysis coming at you and giving it to you straight, this is what you're getting on Locked On Buckeyes throughout the offseason. Am I pleased with how Ohio State played today? Absolutely not. I think that's clear today. How will we tackle the offseason? With more conversations like this about the Ohio State Buckeyes. Buckeyes suffer a 14-3 loss to Missouri in the Cotton Bowl for the second straight year. They have back-to-back losses to end the season. You can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at JStevens07, actually on all platforms. I'm going to start putting more stuff on TikTok and the Instagram at JStevens07 on both. Locked On Buckeyes on Instagram as well. You see some reels popping up on that feed. Send all your emails to jstevens317 at gmail.com. Thank you. Before we go, thank you for tuning in to Locked On Buckeyes in this postcast after the Buckeyes lost in the Cotton Bowl. A lot of you staying up late with me for the show. Trust me, I really appreciate it. Guys, out of here on a Saturday morning at this point in time. We'll see you, literally, in 2024.